evening and welcome. Would you please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Kim, you have the roll call, I assume?
Yes, I do, thank you.
Okay, great. Resolve the Board of Education approve the agenda for the January 8th, 2024 regular Board of Education meeting. So moved. Andy? Second. Don? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. And with that, we have the honor of 2 new members, and we're going to let them take a ceremonial oath of office. Who's going to, Kim, are you going to do this video?
We can just have them stay at their seats because it's a
Stand,
ceremonial.
yeah, and read. Start.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Jeremy? Sure. You want to stand? Stand and turn on your mic. Okay, here you go.
I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Baldwinsville Central School District Board of Education member according to the best of my ability.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Bull.
Aye.
The right. The right side.
I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Baldwinsville Central School District Board of Education member according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate both of you being here, and welcome to the board. Next is maybe one of our most important orders of the night, the spotlight. I'll turn over to Joe and Don, so be my guest.
Thank you. So we're very excited this evening to recognize students and staff. We're going to first begin with the student recognition. So we have 4 students that we're recognizing this evening. C.W. Baker High School students, and I apologize if I mispronounce your first name. Kairi Rodriguez, Sophia Beck, Kiera Ann Remington, and Isabella Clark. They were selected as delegates for the 2024 Angelo Del Toro Puerto Rican Hispanic Youth Leadership Institute, which is commonly known as PRILI. They're members of the Syracuse delegation. This program encourages the participation of Hispanic students in public policy issues by learning about the legislative process. Delegates show great leadership potential. This institute will be held in March in Albany. We're certainly very proud of the work that these 4 students have done to lead in this way, and we look forward to hearing about all of the great things that come out of the PRILI conference later in March. So without delay, if those 4 students could come up, we want to recognize you and we'll get a photograph. Again, congratulations. I know a few faces. This is multiple times being delegates, and we are thankful for your participation. So what is this, your third time?
yeah,
First time. So just to clarify, so we have 2 folks here that this is their 3rd time representing our district, and 1 first-time member. So more to come from you, I think, in the future, but congratulations to Isabella and Sophia, because you're both seniors, or close, yes, seniors. That's what I thought. We're going to transition our next portion of the spotlight to our staff. And we're excited this evening to recognize Tim Mosier, who is a music teacher at Ray Middle School. He's being recognized this evening for his hard work and dedication in directing the 7th grade band at the New York State School Music Association's All-State Conference. Being asked to bring a group to perform at the New York State Music Association All-State Conference is a huge honor for any band director. Tim had the extraordinary opportunity to be one of the only middle school bands invited to this conference. The band played 7 pieces of music, including the exciting premiere of world-renowned composer Sean O'Loughlin's Fanfare Brillante, which we will watch in a moment. And I'm going to have Miss Burnett pull up that video, and we'll get a chance to see a 2-minute video of our students performing at the NYSSBA convention.
Minus the commercial.
the performance. I'm going to read a little bit of the nomination letter that was submitted by Mr. Pope on Tim's behalf. Over the course of an hour performance, Mr. Mosier conducted a workshop-style performance where the band played 7 pieces of music. Between songs, Mr. Mosier provided insights into particular instructional practices, highlighted individual students and their instruments, and demonstrated specific approaches to both pieces of music and helping students reach high levels of achievement in band. It was clear students truly enjoyed Mr. Mosier's leadership and instruction, and they have benefited from the positive culture that he has developed within the band at Ray Middle School. So I'm going to ask Tim to come up on behalf of our district. Thank you for your dedication to our students. That what was also unique is all of the district's band directors went to this performance and supported Mr. Mosier and our 7th grade students. So you guys did an awesome job. I always think it's interesting seeing the progression of students as they work through the elementary level when they're just beginning all the way to the high school. And I think it's hard to say that that wasn't a high school performance. You guys did an unbelievable job as middle school students. So congratulations and thank you, Mr. Mosley.
Can we actually switch for the students?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The last spotlight this evening is a new spotlight for today specifically. Many of you may be aware I sent a communication out to our school community back on the first week of December. On December 6th, there was an incident where one of our students at Baker High School was injured in a bicycle collision with a vehicle on Eastern Ida Street. And the student did suffer a serious leg injury. Before first responders arrived to what was quite a scary scene, this student was cared for by another student, a peer, who we're very proud of, and a staff member at Durkee Junior High School. So at this time, I'd like to have two very special people who care about others, come up and be recognized, and that's Patricia Patterson, or Patty Patterson, who's a teaching assistant at Durkee Junior High School, and Helen Hagerman, who was a senior at Baker High School. Both Patty and Helen's actions during the emergency were commendable. And we are certainly very grateful, and I know that student that was injured, she's doing much better now and back to normal routines, but couldn't have done it without your support and doing the right thing and calling for additional help and emergency services and being there to comfort the students. So thank you.
Well, congratulations to each recipient. We do appreciate our staff, our students, and the high examples that they set. So we're going to commence now with more of the business portion of the meeting. So if some of the recognition people want to leave, it's fine with us, please. Thank you for coming. As I said, the highlight's over, so you'd be disappointed as the rest of you. Moving on, though, we have correspondence, board activities, and committee reports. I know that we had the community cafe on December 6th. I know some people see that. Any comments on that? Ma'am?
Yes, I was able to attend, and I just want to say that the panel had been really welcoming to the community, and I would really like to invite anyone who doesn't come to the community cafe to come to the next one in January. There's usually an agenda, and it's only about 2 hours long. But there's been great discussion on leadership with the community, with board members, with staff. And last time we had RMS do a presentation and guided us through a thought exchange. And it's just really eye-opening to be able to speak your mind, and we're going to continue talking about when in the future at our next time. So I would like to personally invite any community person or staff to attend the next one.
Thank you. Then, of course, December 18th was our work session, and then January 3rd was a special meeting. I don't know that there's any other things to be said about that. We did, just preceding this meeting, have a facilities meeting, which was very informational, and I'm not sure who wants to talk about it. I think Luke has something to say about it.
Thank you, Victor. I have a facilities committee meeting just prior to this one. A lot of great information reported back from the community and the community work groups and committees that really are helping drive some of the information, thoughts, and progress that we as a district are looking to take. A lot of great ideas and fruitful data that was presented with the facilities that will be presented to the full board at our next board, working board session next month. So there's a lot of great information and data about tied in not only to funding the future, but planning for the future, both for students, for the academic support structure, and just looking at what, as the community grows, what do we need to do? And this is a 10 to 15 year look. So it's a lot of information, a lot of great things to share, and I know Joe and all of the cabinet members will have a lot more data for the full board to share, as well as with the full community at our next board meeting.
Thank you. Sam and Wayne were also there. I don't know if you have anything to add, but that futures report was in the Friday letter, and it's rather lengthy, but it is a good read. So I encourage everybody to spend some time with that. And that will, at our January 22nd meeting, they will be there again for questions. And Sam?
And we just also heard that we have state approval, so.
Thank you. Yeah, good point. Thank you. Anything else to cover? The next cafe, you said was January 31st?
January 31st, yes. And I anticipate this Friday's communication to our school community to have the registration link for that, because again, people can show up, but it's nice to know who's planning on attending so that we can make sure we have enough seating, refreshments, and folks facilitating those conversations.
It's important to mention that there are snacks.
There are snacks, yes. That's a good seller.
Well, that does improve attendance, doesn't it? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else on activities or board correspondence, anything? Okay. I believe next on the agenda is our student board report. And Maya?
Alright, so for today there is not a lot to report on due to Christmas and the New Year and the break, but free meals have started for all students since they're still getting used to the changes. Whenever is appropriate, I can read some responses regarding what the theater students had given to me about the recent changes in the program, as well as that. And just a brief, it's just a little bit of a talk of an idea about, possibly something like a class regarding sign language, but it still is very up in the air. It's a new idea, so it's nothing certified yet. But that's all I really have. It's very short.
That's fine. Now, I do know so we'll have that discussion at the round table, so that's a great time to do that.
Okay.
There was also mental health training that students are going through.
Oh yeah, today and tomorrow will be the last session. From what I know, I haven't had mine yet, but mine will be tomorrow.
Well, wonderful. Look forward to that. Okay. Next is the public participation, and we do welcome people who want to come and comment. It's not a question and answer session, but certainly we appreciate hearing from the public, and we ask that you limit your time to about 3 minutes, and we certainly want to recognize your topics, but again, not a question and answer session. Kim, do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, we do. Steve Young, in regards to free, actually means socialism, nothing is free.
You have the floor, Steve.
That's true, by the way. I probably shouldn't be here tonight. I should be at the school building. Got a lot to do. We built a lot so far. It'd be awesome. Anybody who's free, Saturdays, evenings, come on down. We can use hands. There's a lot to do. That being said, you know, free is not free. It's socialized. And I understand that in a school setting, an educational setting, you know, some things do have to be subsidized by the taxpayer. I understand that. It's very clear. I don't think I shouldn't even have to state that. It's just a fact. However, when you give things away for free, like plays, you're asking people who may not even know the playing is going on to pay for it. It's absolutely a socialist mentality. And it is one that I completely disagree with. I'm more interested to be here to listen to what you guys have to say about a letter that I sent in. I sent in a 5-page letter. For those of you who know or don't know, I sent it to the board first, and I said in the email that it could be shared with everybody so that everybody could see it. I have nothing to hide. Everything I say, I would say it to absolutely anybody. Absolutely anybody can hear everything that I had to say. I have nothing, you know, that I'm trying to keep secret from everybody else. I think that the more people that hear of what's going on, the more people get involved. You guys want to talk about reaching the right answer? Well, reaching the right answer is getting more people involved and getting everybody's opinion heard. I sent in the letter. I waited for about 3 weeks, didn't get any response, even acknowledgement that I had received it, until I requested an acknowledgement that it had been received, just to make sure that it didn't get blocked or something like that. You know, because these things happen. And it turns out it did not get blocked. I just didn't get a response until I asked for a response, which is, I don't know what to say about that, but it is what it is. I was also told in that response that there was going to be fact-checking that was done. I can't wait to hear about that, because there are some facts. One of the facts that is that on the web page, on the front page of the school district, you'll notice that there's a picture of the carriage from the marching band. That carriage was built by me in my garage, by myself. And another fun fact about that is I have $1,300 of my own money put into that, into the marching band this year. In addition to that, I have another $350 put into the nets for Finding Nemo, if any of you saw that, the big net that came out at the end. We didn't get the credit card in time for whatever reason. It doesn't matter what the reason is. And I wasn't going to let the show go on without having the net that takes Nemo out of the tank. It wasn't going to happen. So I asked for it, I asked for it, I asked for it. A week goes by, couldn't get the job done, and I ended up saying, you know what, I'm just going to do it myself, and I handled that. I don't need to get paid back. I don't care. My time, my effort, my commitment to this program is over the last, you know, this is my 10th season, is well documented. I think the kids really enjoy the things that I do. The desks that I've just built for Matilda, they've been using them, they love them. And in that letter, a lot of these things that I've done, one of the things that I really want to impart to the general public, and I know I'm over my time, but it is what it is. We can't take any of the props that we used to build, and we can't share them or sell them or loan them or whatever to any other plays, any other theaters, because now it's paid for by taxpayer dollars. So one of the big ones was the Peach from James and the Giant Peach. And there was an elementary school in Oswego that they came down and they saw the show, they were going to do the show, and they asked if they could have our medium-sized Peach, and I was asked if I would take it apart, bring it up there, put it back together, and help them, you know, get it functional for them. And I did that. And to see the look on these little kids' faces, these elementary school kids that don't have a budget, that wouldn't have had a prop like that to perform on, they were elated. The parents were just absolutely, you know, beyond grateful that I did this for them, that we as a district could help them out. Well, that's all done. The next time that request comes in, we're going to get to tell them that, sorry, we have to fill out a form and it has to go in garbage. So I really can't wait to hear the response to the letter. Oh, and I got some correspondence back from the previous president, and I was told to ask by name if any other districts are handing out plays for free. And I'd like to, I think that's something that, this is a pretty big topic, so I think that's right on the top of everybody's minds. I don't think that's something that gets forgotten very easily. So I'd like to hear tonight during the discussion exactly what districts are giving this stuff away for free, because I know the city of Syracuse is not, and I know places like Jordan Elbridge and Central Square are not, and that is a demographic that ranges a very wide span. It certainly encompasses ours. So I'd like to hear out loud who is giving it away for free, if anybody. And I'd also like to hear if, you know, each person, each board member, each person here, I'd like to hear if you support the socialist decision to make this free, or whether you think that maybe we can help out by subsidizing a little bit, but for the performance that we put on, if you think that's worth something, if you think it should be paid, you know, something that should be paid for by the people that are actually viewing it. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was the only request. Okay, with the first on the business agenda here is the consent agenda. Resolved, the Board of Education approve the consent agenda pursuant to the attached. Don?
Second.
Wayne? And questions or discussions on the consent agenda? Because I have just one question. If you look at the budget transfers, there's a large transfer in there, 50,000. And I just was wondering what's behind that current transfer.
So we have the contractual, there's contractual for the fixing of instruments and doing repairs. We chose not to utilize the equipment budget because once you remove out of the equipment budget, you can't get that back. The board authorizes that highest number for equipment, and so we wanted flexibility, so we pulled it out of that special education line. We have some fund balance set aside in that code. But it really, we could have used equipment, but we want to keep our options open because we can't add to equipment. That's prohibited by requirements.
Okay, so we're just trying to be careful with that. Okay, gotcha. Any other questions on the consent? Okay, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And the next one is the policies. This is the first reading. So this is the first reading of the 7,000 series. And they will appear then on at the next business meeting, February 5th. But I guess we'll entertain any questions on those right now. But certainly we'll have another chance to ask. Anything right now on those 7,000 series? Okay. Then let's move on to the 6,000 series. This is the second reading, so we will be voting on those. Resolved, the Board of Education approve Baldwinsville Central School District Policy Series 6,000, Policy 6123, which is a new one, pursuant to the attached. Don? Thank you, Christy. Any questions or discussion on those? No, we talked about a little bit, but anything else? Okay, let's move to vote then. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Item C, resolve the Board of Education approve the contract resolution appointing LaChase Construction Services LLC as construction manager to Baldwin Central School District pursuant to the attached. Motion? Sam? Second. Luke? I know we've discussed this a little bit previously and it was brought up with facilities, but is there any questions? They've been doing business and this is just continuing. There's one project they're working on the main campus now, so this will allow them to work on a second project on the main campus.
And this was reviewed by legal, and we've gone back and forth multiple times, but what you see here is we're in a good place.
Has the legal blessing, that's a good thing. Okay, those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And Item D, resolve the Board of Education approve the resolution for architectural engineering services for the 2023 $63,900,000 capital improvement campaign pursuant to the attached. Motion, please. Andy, Sam, second. Okay, again, something that we've talked about, but are there any questions or discussions?
Just one comment. The reason for the change, this was already approved back in May by the board, but because the scope of the work to align with the contract with the Chase that you just approved, we had to make some revisions based on the timeline, and that's what that is. So it's nothing substantial financially. It's really just making sure that the exhibits align with what's now agreed upon with the Chase.
Okay. Okay. Other questions? Thank you for clarification. I think we'll proceed to vote then. Those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Item E, resolve the Board of Education approve the Baldwinsville Central School District single audit, extra class audit, and corrective action for the year ended June 3rd, 2023, pursuant to the attached. Luke? Don? So, reviewing this, Kim, there was generally a very excellent audit here, right? And there was a couple of items. I know one ECA fund, which happened to be theater arts. And what was the audit find on theater arts?
I just want to pull up the corrective action for that specific thing so I read it correctly. So yes, there was two findings, both for the extra class. One of them had to do with making sure that the profit loss statements were correct and prepared on a regular basis for the theater arts club, and that all of the expenditures related to the production would be included in that document.
Okay. So not all the expenses were included the way I read it, I think, right? Okay. So that will be addressed, and that otherwise was a very good audit, but.
So what we do is we then will take that back when we do an annual training with all of our extra class every fall.
Okay.
So when any of these findings, that's one of the slides that's in that presentation that we go over, and any of the individuals who are appointed to those advisor roles, if they can't attend the training, then I send the video out, and we have topics that we have in regards to focus areas so that we can improve what we were finding before as we were covering too much information. So we kind of focus on the things that we need to pay attention to from the previous year that we found. So this will definitely be discussed with everybody next year.
I have a question with that. So the theater arts weren't preparing the profit loss or expenditures statements. The auditor found that it's an area of improvement and correction. I guess my question here is, how soon does that training go back to the advisors, as well as second part of is the student treasurer or the student, because my understanding is that the student club, student run, are the students also involved in said training for appropriate reporting of expenditures?
Yes, they are, and this is a standing agenda item on those trainings that goes back through over the years. And then what I meant by we focus on it, like we just make sure we let them know what was found in the audit the previous year. But this is a topic that's in those trainings every year, and we do invite the students to participate in that along with the advisors. And then we also have a new person overseeing extra class in the business office right now, and she is having constant communication back and forth that if we're catching anything or if the claims auditor's catching anything, that we're addressing that right there in real time.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those questions. Any other discussion questions? Okay, I think we're probably ready to vote. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. And now F, resolve the Board of Education approve the award of kitchen equipment bid number 396 pursuant to the attached. So Don? Luke? And you can see this bid went out. This was expenditure of some the food budget money we got. So this, I guess, was a welcome thing here, because we need the kitchen equipment, as I understand it.
Correct, and we had a spend down plan, so this was supposed to be in the derby credit, but we found that we needed the equipment sooner than later. So we'll reutilize the same equipment, but we need it prior to being able to wait until that work's done in Turkey.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you, Beth. Any other questions on this? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. So that will take us to the round table, and I guess maybe it would be appropriate then, the first thing I have on here is the musicals and the idea of the no charge tickets. So we did no charge for athletics this fall, and we're continuing that policy, right? And we've done it the first musical, and I guess unless we have time to change, we'll plan on doing it the second musical, but this is an ongoing item, so we need to keep this, keep understanding and addressing it. But Maya, do you want to talk about, you talked to some students?
Yes, not long after the meeting where I had previously stated that I would go and talk to the students, I had gone to a rehearsal after school, and I had generally just before a rehearsal had started, because we didn't want to interrupt the flow of the said rehearsal, I just introduced to them who I was and explained to them the situation and what I had heard. I talked to them about the data that we had been presented with, that it had gone from 95% attended, 5% not showing, to 80% attended and 20% not showing, and some students didn't even know that that was the percentage. But I can read some responses that I got, and I had been taking notes as students came and talked to me that they were free, but I wasn't able to talk to everybody due to them going up on stage and having to rehearse and whatnot. So I did not get a very wide variety, but I did get a good amount. So a student who had family who wanted to see the show but couldn't because of the reserved seats, even though there were some open. I generally put some kind of pros and cons together. Some pros are, the student thinks that it's nice for the families, it's affordable and they're not spending as much. Another student thought that it was nice that they were trying to make it more cheaper, but people are less likely to show up. Another student shared that it's nice that it gives people opportunities, but some cons were the theater isn't as full as usual because of people not showing up. They may feel as it's not necessary, maybe something came up, it's selling out easier. If people don't show up, others can't if it's sold out. The student recommended that maybe there was a specific section for those buying at the door, because they used to be able to do that when the seats weren't reserved. Plenty of people who wanted to go but couldn't. Their families couldn't as well. So many seats, the rows were left open. Maybe that student recommended maybe family discounts for students who have families who want to come to the show, if it's to go back to a purchase. A student who worked with an emo, and the kids saw the fact that the show wasn't actually sold out. There were parents who weren't able to get tickets because they were sold out. As the student felt that if the show was worth paying, it should be, agrees maybe it should be cheaper. There was a possible pre-made program, but I wasn't able to clarify that with the teacher that runs the rehearsal. So that's something that I could reach out, because I wasn't able to do that. Before it was self-funded and the students, were the ones elected, it was nice to have that power, and frustrating to get that power taken away. Each show costs a different amount of money. Selling, a lot of it is that the rows are, a lot of
Empty
yeah,
rows. Okay.
This empty seats with not paying, though, kind of defeats the purpose of being available for everyone. If it's reserved, they are under no obligation to go. Maybe have a limited number of reserved / walk-in, or allow members to reserve some for families. It impacts the people in the show. a student say that the seats that were left open is disheartening, even though the show was said to be sold out. Yeah, it was some of the students. It actually the students, I believe, who worked in Nemo to see that the seats were left open, and it was a main thing that I've been seeing is that it was just unfortunate for the parents and the families who wanted to see the show but couldn't, and they had to lose that opportunity even though there were so many seats left open.
Thank you, thank you. So you did ask to get some more information for it, and I think one of the things that I was concerned about was a couple of people stated that it had been self-funded, and now we were taking over.
Yeah.
So let's.
So, just in general, I think I communicated the last time, there's this perception, you highlighted it too a little bit here this evening, that, you know, this was a self-funded program. This never was fully self-funded. You know, going back to just pulling some numbers from 22-23 school year, the district spent approximately $17,000 in salaries to support the musicals last school year, and approximately $8,000 for supplies, equipment, and materials. So $25,000 in total, above and beyond what the ECA fund utilized to put on the shows that were put on last school year. Not quite as much in the prior year, again, as was mentioned, depending on the show. But at that point, in 21-22, getting back in the groove after COVID, there was approximately $10,000 worth of salaries. I think in total, you know, looking at that salaries for personnel that are there to advise, to help with the instruments and the orchestra, to the designing of the sets and the stage, choreography, you name it. So that is something that I think was important to clarify. That ACA group that was also mentioned has approximately $42,000 still in that account that could be utilized to offset costs moving forward if they have additional things that they want to purchase. I mean, we've heard from members of the community that, you know, we can't use Facebook Marketplace to purchase items, and that's correct. We can't. Our practices in the business office do not allow for purchases. But if a student-run group chooses to supplement the materials, supplies, the equipment, you name it, for these productions this year, they have the ability to utilize, if the student group chooses to use the funding in that way, to spend down that $42,000 as needed for those last minute items. We have been working since this was first brought forward after the last production to address the procedure of getting the supplies and materials more efficiently. We've talked about open POs to various vendors. That has been communicated from the business office to the advisors they've met. That was previously mentioned to the advisors prior to implementing this year, but it is now reinforced through recent conversation with the staff and the business office. The ECA audit obviously highlighted some concerns that had been in prior audits as well. That's not the reason for this change. As I communicated to the board the last time, you know, making this recommendation that it's consistent to what we do with athletics. It's consistent, you know, moving forward, that we want to create opportunities, and we have the ability to also utilize the funding through arts and education, and if we're getting aid generated back on the supports that we're utilizing through arts and ed, whether it be salaries and the contractual obligations associated with running these, getting the rights. You know, I don't know why we would charge for tickets when we're getting that approximately 75%, 75 cents on a dollar back on the every dollar that we spend. We've also communicated recently with the folks that they have, I mean, they can accept donations, and people can't be required to have donations, but just like any other ECA group as a fundraising effort, donations are accepted, and that can happen. So if there's folks in the community that feel very strongly that, they want to give back for receiving a ticket, they have the ability to donate to the ECA group. That being said, they do have $42,000 that's there right now, and I don't know that they need to fundraise a lot at this point.
How much, do you know, like last year, how much was raised from ticket sales and how much was spent on VCA for?
It was about the same, like $20,000-ish. It's in the report. There's like 20, off the top of my head, I want to say it's like $22,000-ish. If we pulled up that other report, it is in there. Consistently, though, I think from what I put in the Friday letters a few weeks back, it's typically an exchange of around that dollar amount.
Around
They end up bringing in approximately $40,000, but then approximately 20 ends up going out, and then there's a balance of 20 in there. And so that's why you see $42,000 from last year, because they did not have to spend anything this current year to bring it down as it stands right now, with things being supplemented from the ECA account and us going through Arts and Ed.
I have a question. So, I'm just not it's just not, I wasn't clear. I was like, when this was originally brought up to bring the theater program and the sports into a taxpayer, like the taxpayer money goes towards it, and like bring it into the school budget more, was the community asked about that, or were the students asked about that, or was that just kind of something that happened within the district and it was kind of just single-handedly decided? I just wasn't sure if the community had been asked about, and if they were the ones who were like, yes, we like this, it's a good idea, we can try it out, or if they weren't talked to.
It wasn't, so it started in last year's budget development process. So ultimately the superintendent makes a recommendation with the budget, and within that budget, it was articulated that there was not going to be the game fees built into that budget. So typically, there's approximately, and Kim can correct me if I'm wrong, anywhere between, $15,000 to $30,000 potentially generated from gate fees, and that was zeroed out as we prepared the 23-24 budget. When you think about athletics in general, by the time you're paying people to collect funding, you're paying more out than you're actually bringing in. And so thinking about all the other things that we're offering, families, we're now broadcasting and streaming things live for families. How could we, choose to also charge them for something that they could watch on their computer? And so that was a discussion that was had at the cabinet level, and then as we presented the budget to the board, that line item was not in there. So we didn't ask the community. We felt that the taxpayers ultimately are supporting the budget. We do a lot, they do a lot to support our schools, and so therefore we felt it was most appropriate to have that as an option for our school community.
And teachers that were involved in their areas should have been aware of that from the way the budget was being developed.
And that was over the course of...
teachers in the theater arts area should have been aware from seeing how the budget was being developed.
And I
Last year's board, were somewhat aware of it.
And I can communicate that those conversations have been ongoing. I think I stated last time, over the course of a 2-year period as we built the instructional budget. And I can say that confidently because, prior to in my role as deputy superintendent, I was facilitating those budget advisory committees with our instructional folks.
So, no, that's what's best.
Just take a quick question about the empty seatings. In the times we've been discussing this, I've heard a couple of things. One, that the empty seats were the result result of, people asking for tickets and not coming. And then I've also heard that some rows were blocked off because of the, so I mean, I guess I'm just confused about the empty seats.
That's a great question, and I'm glad that you brought that forward. So we learned through the work here that there were tickets, there were seats that were blocked off from staff, and so that has been corrected. As I communicated the last time, we met, Renee and the other directors met with the fine arts staff, and we learned that there were some issues with some sound from their perspective. So we've actually moved forward with making adjustments. We had a vendor come in to provide an update, recalibration of the sound system. So that has been approved from the business end, and we're just waiting for that to be scheduled. It will be fixed prior to Matilda being performed. And then we've also purchased additional microphones, portable microphones for the students. We're in the process of, should I say, so that there's not the exchange of going back and forth, because that was another complaint that we heard, that there was some issues with the sound. Well, when you're taking off these sets, and they're not made for that, right? And they haven't been replaced, to my knowledge, at all since the new auditorium was put into place. So, yes, there were seats that were blocked out. There was over 100 seats that were blocked out that shouldn't have been blocked out, and that's been corrected for the next play. I do want to speak to the point about the performances being not fully attended. You know, when I presented the numbers at the last board meeting, you know, when you look consistently, going back to 2021, there were 1,094 tickets sold for all 3 shows, or seats redeemed for all 3 shows. In 2022, there were 1,620, or 1,632. And then this past fall for that musical was 1,626. So a difference of 6 seats between the highest attended number of redeemed tickets as this most recent musical. And I think, you know, given the fact that it was communicated that it was sold out, because that's what was shared with those seats being blocked, that's not going to be an issue. So I anticipate there being, you know, seats filled for Matilda, and as we communicated before, after all of the discussions, we can certainly reflect and revisit, but I feel strongly that making a change right now without having gone through a full cycle, I just don't know that that's in the best interest, given what we've communicated when we think about our shared vision, goals, beliefs, and what we kind of stand for. That's where I'm at.
Sorry, may I ask for just clarification on something? So is the seats that were blocked off, was that the direct cause of the seats? Like, do you know
So
if that's the direct
when the seats
cause?
were, I don't know what the direct cause. I know that there were approximately 20 seats that had historically been blocked off because of where they're located around the musical, what's the pit, not the pit, but the soundboard in those folks, because it's distracting. So they list those as limited view. The other issue that we had was that they weren't allowing people to actually select your seats.
On your phone.
I didn't get to select, like when I registered, I could say I wanted 4 seats, but then it placed me into a section of the auditorium. All of that's been corrected for this upcoming musical. So there will be no block seats other than the limited view that is around the sound station, and people will have the ability to select the seats that they want if they're open.
So that's the way it used to be.
And that's the way it used to be prior to moving really to an electronic system, and or when we charge. In fact, when they charge different rates depending on what might be deemed a more desirable section of the theater.
Joe, when you say over 1,600, that's people that came.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And we did. I mean, we're acknowledging the fact that there were quite a few families that did not redeem the tickets, and we think we can also do a better job with staff working through that. That if somebody is choosing not to, where they have the ability to notify that they're no longer able to attend for whatever reason. But things do come up. I mean, as I communicated last time, we had 112 no-shows or non-tickets redeemed from parents and members of cast and crew, and then we also had employees that didn't go, and that things come up, right? But we also were allowing people to reserve 3 sessions, like families beforehand, tickets, which I get, we need to do that, but do they need to reserve for all 3 shows, or can they reserve for the 1 show and then they're in the pool with the rest of the public? Those are conversations we're having with the music staff as we move forward.
So the other question, are we aware of other schools that are not charging or not?
So I can speak specifically with athletics. There are a lot of schools. We may be closer to one of the first with the musicals specifically, but I do know, as Kim mentioned last time, that there are schools that are utilizing and really self-running their programs through Arts and Ed. And it was highlighted that Central Square is a district that does do a lot with Arts and Ed. They've built their program through that, because it was in Oswego County, BOCES, COSER before getting into OCM. Knowing that, still go back, and I struggle with personally the idea of, if we're getting aid back on something and now we're going to try to make money on it, I just don't think that sits well with folks either. That's kind of where I stand on why I support, obviously, the recommendation that we went through last year as we presented the budget. And I'll own it, and I'll reflect on the fact that, once we get through a cycle, if things aren't working the way that we intend them to work, but I see this as an opportunity to, again, with the aid, self-generate this, where we're getting the aid stream back in, where this is something that doesn't go away. And I think that's part of the fear that a lot of the music staff has. If we're supporting this through the general fund budget and getting aid back, what happens if times get tough? Well, what I've communicated to them, and when Kim and I have shared, we're building the aid side up as well. And so the minute we decide to reduce on the general fund, we then, a year later, have a reduction in the aid. And that doesn't make sense. So if anything, I think what we're doing is building a more sustainable, long-term model so that we can ensure that we're continuing to add the musical options, the drama productions, the things that we've added over the course of the last 2 years because of the additional funding that we received, both from BOCES aid as well as the American Rescue Plan funding that we received.
Okay, are there other questions that you think came up?
I just have a couple. First thing I was thinking of is, with all the seats open, that you hopefully corrected the blocking of seats. Do you think that assigned seats seems to be the trend? Even the movie theaters now, you pick your own seats, and I think that's helpful. But a thought I had was, thinking of whether it be an airplane or some of the plays that I've been to outside of schools, is there any thoughts to or ability to electronically create a standby list, even if it's limited to so many seats, whether it be 10, whether it be 20, whether it be 100, so these families that Maya said were on a sold-out show couldn't, that at least they could put their name on a standby list, go to will call, if you will, and if those seats aren't claimed within the first few minutes, those seats are given up. And so if you've purchased a ticket, be on time, or you might, and at least for the student performers, the goal is to truly sell it out, pack the house. So I think, I didn't know if a standby list or that thought or opportunity would be possible. And with that, I'd like to see how this plays out in the next production with all the seating fixes. A big theme that Maya went through with students is, a lot of them said it's great, it's cheaper, more opportunity. So at least on their end, I'd like to see how everything plays out. And as you said, doing something mid-year or mid-production could be a bit disruptive. So personally, I'd like to see how this next production is with some of these modifications or enhancements, if that makes sense. And then,
Absolutely makes sense. And Renee, we can look into whether we can do the will call list in the system or not, or we have to generate another, Google Sheet or form for families. That's something we can guarantee that we can do that either way, through the system or through the Google. We'll work to get that set up. Danielle's good at setting up those forms for us.
So, and then if no one else has, I do have just one last question. In regards to, you said the student group with purchasing some of these fundings off Facebook Marketplace or a little bit off district. I mean, corporate businesses, usually you go through a purchasing process, a PO process. Unfortunately, I can't go and order it now just because of accounting regulations, requirements, and reporting. So we have to use the system we have. But it was interesting that you said the student group has that ability, and my question is, how can students propose and approve that spending?
So they have to meet and they have to vote. They're the ones that have to bring that forward. There have been cases, and I'll have Kim discuss more, because they are following some purchasing processes, but there are cases where there can be reimbursements. I mean, I sit and listen to our speaker this evening talk about how much, if the student group truly understands how much, and I know it's not about how much was spent, if they want to, they can choose to reimburse that individual for the work, because it was for that production. They have the funding to do that, but it has to be the student group making those decisions, as opposed to a district administrator, staff member, teacher, advisor saying, you have to do this. That's the key with the ECA. It is truly all fully student run.
If I could just add to that, so just to make sure there's no confusion. So the extra class accounts functions separately from the school district, however, we are still audited. The rules that the ECA has to function under versus the rules that the district has to function under are different. It's not the same set of rules, if that helps.
Yeah, it does. It just seems you have to make sure you have the record and the student initiation with said funding, and it comes out of that other line item, if I understand it correctly.
It's not even
Not a line
another,
item.
it's not a line item, it's a
Different account
totally
or-
separate. So the way it's set up with New York State is extra class is basically a totally separate, it's not part of anything to do with taxpayer dollars, general fund, grants, any of that. It's its own entity, so to speak. For example, they can't use our tax exempt card. So they function totally under a separate umbrella. However, they get audited, and you just approve the audit that we had to do the corrective action plan for tonight. So that's, to Dr. DeBarber's point, they have a little more flexibility, whereas we don't have a way to vet Facebook Marketplace appropriately under the regulations and the policies that we have to follow. ECA doesn't have that same overarching net. They have to have the students approve everything that they do, because it's a student-run activity.
Excellent, thank you.
I just wanted to add one thing. When the students have been saying, like, it's nice that it's cheaper, I did notice that what the response is, and it's nice that it's cheaper, but, and it seemed that there was always a but after it. So, it's nice that it's cheaper, it's affordable, but maybe there are ways that, if it was to go back to something that was to be purchased or like reserved, like I like the idea like a movie theater, like say that it was to be reserved, you can like pick where your seat, you like sit in and whatnot. But but it's not like a movie theater. But say if there was to be like a no-show, or you weren't able to, but you didn't claim that ticket, like there would be like it was recommended by student review, there would be a late fee or a no-show fee. So if you don't show to your ticket, like it's made clear like that's something that could be missed out for another family. I'm sorry, I'm not like trying to like be too pushy, but like it's something that was recommended, and I think it's a good idea to let people know like these are, there's families that want to go see this. Like again, that's if it was to go back to a purchase type. But I just wanted to clarify that from what I heard from the students. It was nice, but.
Maya, I'm just wondering too, like you had mentioned in the beginning, it's a very small sample of people that you had interviewed. So I'm just wondering if like through the next play and the end of the year, if maybe we could get a larger sample of students, because, You know, I'm just curious if the larger population of students that maybe aren't tied to the musical, how they might feel about the opportunity to attend something where they don't have that information or that piece, and maybe they're just having the opportunity to do something they couldn't do before, if it would give us a broader representation of the general population of thoughts on that.
So I could surely try, but as when I first interviewed the students, it was, you can come to me if you feel free to share. I did not want any students to feel pressured or to feel uncomfortable, like they had to talk to me.
Right.
It's totally if they were comfortable, and quite a few students had come up to me. They shared their opinions. You know, my friends came to me. They shared theirs. And if it's not something that's going to be straight decided anytime soon, you guys rather go through the Matilda show, I can follow up after the Matilda show and see what the kids think, because I get gotten what I heard from the Nemo show and then just from the students who have known about it think. But I mean, again, there will be the Matilda show, but I just wanted to clarify, I don't want to make any students feel uncomfortable, they have to come to me and they have to talk about it. It's not something that I want to make required. It's something that they come to me, if they feel comfortable, if they want to share. I make sure students know this is something that I bring back to the board. It will be shared and it will be taken into consideration. So that's just something that I know that there were more students there when I had first talked to them, but I didn't want to make anyone feel feel uncomfortable. Something purely of their choice. But I can, if it's something that we just want to wait on and we want to hear more about, I can follow back after the Matilda show and see, or I can try and follow up again and see if any.
Communication lines open, I guess, right?
Yeah, I did leave my email with the teacher who runs the rehearsals in case anyone wanted to reach out to me, if no one has. But I can surely follow up and make sure that that's something that's put out there more to make sure that students know where I'm at. So I've tried to make sure the students know you can come to me, but I can surely try and follow up that again if more information is still needed.
I just had a couple quick thoughts. One of the things you had mentioned was about the limited view seats and how those are blocked off. Would it be possible to have those be wheel call type tickets where on the day of the show, if it's sold out, that people could fill in those seats, or buy them at the door? And then another thought was, couldn't we add an extra performance to make sure that people that couldn't make one of those other shows couldn't, and then there would be 1,800 more seats available? And then my last thought, and then I'll let you comment, is I know Maya said she talked to some of the performers. Have we talked to any of our athletes and asked them how they feel about, are there more people coming to the games? Are there less people coming? Do they like it? Do they not like it? Because I know we're focusing on the theater department or the fine arts department, but this is an across the board thing for all the other people. And it's a little bit different because you show up at the football stadium, and if there's no seats, you kind of stand there. And I understand you can't do that in the auditorium, but I think it's great to give people the opportunity to go to the events that they want to. We don't charge tickets to go see the chorus concert. I understand that that's academic and ECA stuff, but I think that it's great to have that opportunity. I think we need to work on the ticketing system, but I think that there's options to make sure that anyone who wants to go can go. But I guess that's my point.
Those are all great points that we will take back. And I know with the blocking out this, they list those seats as limited view or obstructed view, but maybe that is an area that they're listed for the will call if need be, and they're just blocked out. But those are all good points, and we can follow up with athletics as well.
If it's something that again, like you guys would like to do, I can try and talk to the football team and see what they think, but I'm unsure of how I would get them all together. Seeing that it's out of season when they would be playing, but I could talk to a coach and see if we could try to talk to all of them, if it's something you guys would like to hear from that perspective as well. I'm unsure if any other teams that practice there. I only really know the football games, but I could also talk to the athletic department and see what they have to say about that, or if that's a possibility of something that I could do. But if it's, I can always do that if you guys would like.
And you could ask any of the sports that are in season now. I told Joe this a couple weeks ago, but I had an experience where a family friend, their son plays basketball for Liverpool, and he plays JV, and they charge for people, they charge ticket prices at the door for varsity games, and the parents were like, yeah, we always just come before the varsity game starts, so we don't have to pay. You know what I mean? So people are getting around it and that kind of thing. Well, I completely understand it. I think that this is a way to, again, I guess, get more information, because it's affecting other people too. But I do, and I don't, since there's no tickets, do we gauge like how many people are at a football game or at a basketball game? Is there still a way to do that?
We know, based on the number of people coming in through at the high school right now through the threat detection system, but the same thing at the stadium. There's a count, so we know how many people walk through those devices.
So not me from this year.
Yes. Last year we would have known from ticket sales, but again, that wouldn't have been foolproof because not everybody would have purchased a ticket.
Kids were free
And/or staff numbers and things like that. I mean, it looked, again, from my attending quite a few events, it's consistent to the number of people that we've had attending events, if not some being more. But we can get feedback from athletics as well, and I think there's ways to not put it on my head. That's a hefty task for her.
I don't mind, it's my responsibility.
Yeah, but we have the ability as a district, I have a responsibility to also, I mean, we can survey students through some of the systems we have, whether it be through a Google form that goes out to every student's email to provide feedback, could be a thought exchange. There's a lot of things that we can do with systems we have in place to get feedback from students.
And definitely, I agree. I mean, it's not like my whole responsibility, but it's something that like I'm willing to take on and partially work. So I could work with you, and we could get in contact with the athletics department in order to kind of get a wide variety of responses. Say not just from the teams that may practice at or they have games at the field, but all the different sports that could be affected by this. I'm surely willing to work with you if you'd like to kind of get that going. And I'm not sure if we have it by the next board meeting, just because of how wide it will be in order to get time for everyone to respond or everyone who would like to. But I'm sure it's something that could be done.
Can I add in?
Yes.
A couple things? So, to remind the board, especially because we have 2 new board members here, one of the things that the district does support, although it's not specific to the musical, is that we do have Paula Pickering, who is our theater manager, and she, obviously we pay her salary to support all the events, and I think she would agree that a large portion of her time is spent supporting all of the musicals in addition to all of the school events that happen there. The other thing I would talk about is that I hate to waste things, so the thought that some of our set pieces would just be thrown out into the trash is very disturbing to me. So I'm thinking though that once they are surplus, they can be auctioned, correct?
So we have the board, I'm glad you brought that up because I thought, and I made a note here when that was mentioned earlier, we have the board, every board meeting, we have, a surplus list. Once it's surplus, we can then decide, and if the board designates for those items that they want them to go, we've had books that have been excised from the district and then they've been shipped to school Katrina when there was down in New York City. So there's lots of options as long as the board authorizes that. And that is a simple process. We do it every meeting and we can decide to do that. And there's the ability also between inter-agency agreements and loans for other schools that if we want to loan something out, we have the ability to do that. And we do that all the time. Through our BOCES.
I think it's important to know that, because I wouldn't want to see any of those beautiful pieces go into the trash. And knowing that we could support and help other schools that may not have that ability to have those gorgeous set pieces that we have, that I think that's super important.
Just an idea, maybe there's a way to make that, like, I agree, like, it's they shouldn't be thrown out, if someone can reuse those and reimburse them or possibly just add on to it, it's something great, so maybe there's a way that could be maybe more wider known to people who are, like, maybe are making these or the students, or maybe even other schools. So say if they need to borrow a piece because they don't have, say, funding that we do with the people that come together to build this, that we can make clear to them, like, hey, we have these pieces, if you would like one. We can go through the process of lending you this piece, we can make it just somehow, I'm unsure of how we would, but it's just an idea.
Well, that's great, because I also don't like the idea of all that work on the beautiful piece being destroyed, thrown out. Any other thoughts, comments? Sam?
Just one quick thought. I guess I never really thought of the musical or the sporting events as being free. There's a cost to everything, but I look at it as giving our students access, maybe access that they wouldn't be able to have if there was a cost.
Okay, thank you. So, well, again, I think, unless I hear otherwise, I think the consensus is this year to continue where we are, but this will be continually reassessed. What I understand is there's money in the account, so anything that was done in the past, they should still be able to do. This doesn't put any constraints on them right now to have to build something that they bought off Marketplace in the past, right? Okay, and then the part of the ticket issue, we're gonna try to address that. So we're not quite sure why those roads were blocked up, well, I guess because some people felt, some of the staff felt they were not good audio, but you addressed that. Okay, so it sounds like several of the issues, and it does sound like also that you're doing a blanket PO so that they can purchase stuff up to an amount. Now they would have to purchase it from certain vendors. They couldn't buy it off Facebook, for instance, but they still have the other money. So some of the questions have been answered, and you'll continue to see what other schools are doing, so if they see there's a trend one way or not.
We'll continue to collect data and based on the musical this spring to other points that were made, if there are additional performances that need to be added. Again, I look at it as another opportunity to give students that experience. We did have Thursday evening performances at 1.2 over the course, and there were Sunday shows as well. I know that makes it more difficult with getting custodial staff and all those other things that we haven't really talked about when we're not officially here on normal school hours. But for me, it's about creating those opportunities for students, and if there's a need for additional, and we can convince, why wouldn't students want to take advantage of another opportunity to showcase their talents?
Costs $900 to join the marching band.
Don?
Just, I wanted to wait to the end to kind of hear the flow of the conversation. Just a quick question and a quick thought. Quick question is this. I know that somewhere in the numbers of budgets and line items and money and all that stuff, somewhere in there, we occasionally pay adults to perform musically in some of the performances. I'm new to the field. I'm not sure why we do that. Are we short of students that participate in the program, or I just wonder why.
So we've been working through that. Renee specifically has been working through that over the last couple of years. We've tried to create more opportunities for students to showcase their talents again, but from the orchestra or the instrumental band students. And so there are cases where, many years ago it was just adults doing a lot of the pit playing for the musicals, and we've slowly started to introduce more students into that because they have those talents and skills. So there is that. We do have some staff members that the board actually approved tonight too, a few positions with a stipend to supplement that. I don't have the details of whether we needed 4 trumpets, and there's the 1 trumpet that's been added from the staff member, but that is something that we can get. But I will say that over time we've continued to increase the number of students serving in the pit as opposed to just having adults, because it's a student performance, and we feel strongly that we want to give that opportunity to not only our vocal students, but our instrumental students as well.
Thank you for that. Quick comment. Like I said, I wanted to wait to the end because I wanted to see how the discussion developed. And I read Steve's letter about 6 times. There's a lot of meat in there.
Thank you.
And maybe Steve and I can get together and talk about that one more at some point. One of the things that I noticed in his letter, there's some energy behind the idea of taking something that was privately funded and making it publicly funded. And Steve did, I think, a fairly good job of articulating it tonight, the idea of just socializing certain things, just for maybe some reason, maybe a good reason, maybe a bad reason, maybe no reason, taking it out of the private sector and putting it in public. I just want to step back for a minute from that, because in Steve's letter, there's a lot of energy behind that. There's a lot of energy behind that tonight, and I tend to share that quite a bit. So some of you know, not everybody knows, I lived in China for 14 years, and I worked in Chinese schools for 14 years. And you just need to know there isn't a place that is more abusive, there isn't a place that's more dangerous for kids than a Chinese classroom. A totalitarian dictatorship running a school is the most absurd and damaging thing I can possibly think of for a kid. I started 3 schools over there. I was a teacher over there. I was a principal over there. I started 3 schools over there on private curriculums, international curriculums, American curriculum. One of the things that never happened over there, we never, ever, ever had a discussion like this. It was not permitted. There was an agenda, there was a dictate, and there was a vote. And the vote, of course, was always 100% in favor of whatever the agenda was meant to deliver. And so, like I said, I just want us to step back and understand the privilege that we have here, the blessings that we have here, and just remember that, we may disagree on little things from time to time, and I hope there's, on sort of contentious or questionable things, I hope there aren't unanimous votes. We do need to remember where we are, what we've got, and then pretty much we're on the same side.
We are here for the kids, we know that, yes, thank you. So I think we're ready to talk about the solar eclipse. And in case you didn't know, we're gonna have one on April the 8th, and the best place in the United States to watch it is right around Baldwinsville, New York. So there's questions about what to do around the solar eclipse. Let's just try to get ahead of that.
Come to me about that and be like, there's gonna be a solar eclipse, like, ask them to do something.
Here you go.
So we are, this has been a conversation that's been ongoing for probably half a year now with the OC and BOCE superintendents and their assistant superintendents. And there are some districts, there's a range of ways districts are handling this. We've taken the approach, or I've taken the approach that, this is an instructional opportunity and moment for students. The safest place for students is to experience that in our classrooms with our staff who have knowledge. Certainly families can choose to not have their students here. There are districts that are moving conference days and having those school and making those decisions. I'm often reminded that we are in central New York, and yes, I hope we have the ability to see through the clouds and experience it. Yes, it will get dark, but we have staff that have been working diligently to create resource packets for teachers based on grade level bands, our learning coaches, so that they have some instructional strategies, and then it really is their kind of comfort level in working with students. The experiences of a upper elementary age student compared to those primary level students, it's going to be different, and the teachers know best. but we're looking at a normal day of school. Our drivers, we've been in conversation with the CSEA, and they're excited about it. You know, Val's sitting back there, and she's a member of the CSEA, and we're excited about being able to share and experience this with students as a bus driver. But the plan right now is to remain open, not have any delay or early dismissals. If anything, there could be a slight delay with the elementary students, but hopefully not going beyond the contractual time frames.
That was part of the issue, was didn't they say the height of the eclipse is somewhere between 2:30 and 3:30?
I believe so. It's going to be around the time, from what my science teacher had told me, she said that it's going to be around the time that we get out. So it was recommended that or maybe it's an idea that we could have a half day.
So
Still, it means decided that it's going to be a full day, but from what I've been told, it will be around the time. So by the time I think a lot of students get home or on the bus, it'll probably be almost like completely dark out. So I know that it might not impact the buses and bringing them home, but it's still for students to be able to see it and experience it. It'll be when everyone's busy going home.
So at the secondary level, 3:17 is estimated time of complete darkness from what has been communicated to me and the rest of the team. So from 2:15 to that point, it's going to slowly start getting darker. And yes, by then all of our high school, secondary level students will be home. So they'll be able to experience it if they're not an athlete or staying for an after school or extracurricular activity. Our science teachers are looking at potentially creating an opportunity for the secondary students after school here. But at the elementary level, that's right around dismissal. So the plan right now is for students to experience with staff. We hit that point of 3:17 and then slowly start transitioning students to our buses and on our way home at that point. But we would be communicating to families that if they're coming to pick up their children, they really need to be doing that at the elementary level before 3 o'clock because we don't need that added confusion. But if, again, we and the rest of the team, I think we feel strongly that this is an opportunity for our staff to help share in the learning that only comes once or twice in a lifetime, depending on when they were born.
I wasn't sure related to that, if, because you are the center of learning in Baldwinsville, if you'd be willing to share any of those packets on the website for community people like me who might really want to know what's going on and the best way to do things.
That's a great, we can do that. We're proud of the work our learning coaches. We've already discussed this also with the Baldwinsville Public Library because they're trying to coordinate some things too, and they can get this information communicated. But without having this discussion here, at least bringing it to your attention. Now, could things change? Absolutely. I mean, I know that schools that are closing early, they're anticipating a major influx of people to the region, which could impact. I think more people are likely to head toward Lake Ontario, where there's more open views and fields. I don't know that there's going to be tons of people standing at the four corners in the village of Baldwinsville. That being said, I think everybody's aware we have great drivers and great staff members who can help make this a great time for students. And I will also say that not to put down the half days, but I did put out a survey to families at the elementary level because we're building the schedule for next school year. And every year we hear concerns about half days. And so I put out there to the families, because contractually we have to have so many because of parent-teacher conferences. But the feedback coming back was, can't you just get rid of half days and make, 2 of them convert to a 1 full day? And there's requirements, it takes time, there's things we have to do. So it's tough when we do early releases for families to make things work. And given that the impact is really, for the timing of this with the elementary students, I don't want to create another disruption for the people that are concerned with half days to begin with.
I totally understand. If there's to be like a after-school program, It may be something that, like, if the teachers at my school are doing, or maybe at Durkee, maybe something to talk to, like, the science teachers or the principals about, but maybe something to put in, like, the letter that's sent out, or the Friday letter, that there will be an after-school program, or not program, but there will be an after-school opportunity if is to be, like, presented for students to see that, so, like, all the students, you know, they're aware that that's a possibility, so, like, they think that they're gonna miss out, they have the possibility of being able to experience it, if they don't have, you know, other scheduling impacting it.
And that'll be done by the secondary building principals and their communications to families, again, because it won't impact the elementary. But we also, I want to point, one more piece I forgot, is the goggles or the glasses. You know, we have a partnership with OC and BOCES, just like other schools, and we've been able to secure quite a few of the solar glasses that will be distributed to students and to teachers and drivers that will be impacted during that time frame.
One more, I guess, PR outreach question is, will this be, I'm not gonna go as far as like live streamed, but kind of on Christie's point for the public, and you know, to highlight the excellence and exceptional instructional staff and programming that we have, you know, will this be kind of highlighted, not as a solar eclipse party, but as a, you know, the elementary students, here they are, experiencing this, here's pictures, video, you know, not necessarily live, but maybe even a condensed version. I think that would be a great showcase of, you know, just the educational opportunity that this presents the students and the public as well.
Definitely before and after. Sarah will be all over that.
Okay, thank you. One last, I guess, enough on eclipses at this point? Okay. One last point, we don't really have a lot of discussion on here, with the tax exemptions. And this is on here because you may remember that a captain from a fire department was here not too long ago, and as you may know, volunteer fire departments are having a very difficult time recruiting. And he was asking if we had considered the possibility of granting tax exemptions under New York state law. Volunteer first responders, ambulance, firefighters, volunteer only, can get a 10% exclusion. So we need more data, I think, because number one, we have no idea what that is, and we're kind of talking about it because they brought it up. They haven't made a formal request, but in the spirit of transparency and us being informed, we thought it would be good to start talking about it, because that old tax levy, and help me, Kim, if I say something wrong, because Kim knows this better than I know it, but so when you're building the budget, you build your budget, you look at how much state aid you got, and the rest of it is your tax levy. And then you look at your tax levy, how much you got to raise, and whatever this year, how many millions this year is our tax levy? Or well, last year, I guess I should say, was like 55, 60 million, something like that. So you take that money and you look at your total assessed base, and then you then have, with a number of little exceptions here and there, the per thousand that you're gonna assess people, okay? Well, one of the issues that we've dealt with in the past when people talk about this is that as soon as you tell somebody they're getting a break, what you did is you put it on somebody else. So if you give first responders, volunteer first responders a break, and that's, big number, $5 million, what you did is you moved that $5 million from your volunteer first responders and told everybody else you gotta pay the bill. And so far, we've shied away from that. But here we don't even know what we're dealing with, so we're just trying to collect data. But
So we plan on having more discussion at our work session on the 22nd, where we talk about funding improvements in the future, but the next budget workshop, so we can have more dialogue. So if there's additional information, or you think about things based on what we put in the Friday letter, we can get additional data. To Victor's point, you know, when you look at the local options that currently exist for property tax exemptions, there's the veterans, there's the senior citizens with limited income exemption, There's the persons with disabilities and limited income exemption, and then there's the volunteer firefighters, ambulance worker exemption. So right there, was that 4 or 5 that, districts can consider, and this district historically is not because of some of the points. I don't know where the community stands. We even talked about whether we get a legal opinion, whether we can put it out there to get feedback, or maybe it's a thought exchange, or we do a vote to say, would the community support something? Because it's a difficult thing for the board to have to grapple with and decide.
The other piece of that, of course, is the STAR is subsidized back to the state. So the STAR doesn't cost your local district anything, or it doesn't usually work around the issue. That comes back to the state. But if you remember earlier this year, we did restate that we wouldn't exempt solar projects. So if the solar project's done, it's gotta go on the tax rolls just like anything else. And there's still the ability, I'm sure Jeremy knows this, there's still the ability to exempt solar projects to, to promote them. So that's been, I remember many years ago, I think, Christie, you probably, we had that discussion, we had some requests from solar projects. Okay, but to be continued.
So in the meantime, please think of questions or additional data, and we'll shoot us an email, and we can get that and have a more thoughtful conversation on the 22nd.
Okay. Okay. Resolve the Board of Education enter into an executive session for collective negotiations pursuant to the Taylor Law to discuss the CSEA, Baptist contracts, and the employment history of a particular person or corporation. Don. Jeremy. Those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll be in exec and we'll take a 5-minute break to be in exec. Is that, Wayne, did you get seconded out? Did you? Sorry. You know what? I'm sorry.